This is our Rats with Team 4545 League analyzing the game between Montana Sky and 173. This was played in team event number 53 in the third round. Let's have a look. Now, we've seen this before, but we haven't seen this move before in a game in my videos. Now, this is known as Bird's Defense to the Roy Lopez. Okay, and I've actually had this played against me years and years ago, and I might have even tried it once or twice myself with black. It's not a bad opening for black to play and avoid a lot of the mainline theory. Okay, so what white should do and normally does in this position is to play C3. Okay, C3 is considered the main line. I'll give you the basic ideas of this. What white's got to do is when his bishop gets attacked, black's going to do the same. It's important to go back to A4 rather than C4. And why, do you ask? Oh, well, I'll tell you why. What do you think, though? Might want to think about it and pause the video. Let's just put this on the board. Why would white go to A4 rather than C4? Okay, pause the video. Okay, come back. Now, the reason you want to go to A4 rather than C4 is because on C4 the bishop is going to be eventually tempoed one more time. Okay, so when it goes to C4, black has D4 or D5 at some point, and that's basically the idea. And the bishop's going to have to move again. But if you go to A4, then eventually black will be playing D5, and white doesn't have to stop and deal with his bishop. And that's the whole difference. Okay, now black's not ready to play it now and take back with the pawn necessarily because he can't, it's pinned. But if you examine the analysis on this opening, you'll see more of the details and strategies, and of course that's beyond the scope of this video. Okay, so like I say, I had this played against me once. The first time I did was I was rated around right about the time, probably before I broke 1800, and I was playing somebody who was 1900 and actually beat him, and we reached this symmetrical position where he was actually a tempo ahead. And I have to dig up the game sometime and share it, but the key was, even though I was a tempo behind and I didn't have my bishop pointed at his on the diagonal towards his castled king, the key was I played queen h5 and with the idea of trying to set up that attack. And it wasn't so much to try to checkmate him, it was to prevent black from putting his queen on h4 and doing the same. And if I had just developed a piece normally, black would do that, and then I would be placed on the defensive. So it was kind of an interesting game the way I conducted myself. I'll have to dig that up and share it one day. Not today. Okay, so white doesn't play c3, and I'm not going to criticize the fact that he didn't, because as far as I know, castling is a book move too. It's perfectly logical, and it gets the king to safety. So what should black be aiming for here? Well, I've kind of given it away already. Probably black should play c6. If not this move, the next move. Okay, black's got to strive for his share in the center here, but at the same time, nothing of black's is developed, so he's definitely going to have to get that stuff out. So the question is where and how. For the moment, if you want to play cautiously, if you play knight d5, knight f6, e5 comes in. Where do you could come in and bother you? Where do you go? d5? Yeah, maybe. Where are you going to put the bishop? e7? Okay, you're going to put it on c5. These are questions black must ask, and until he castles, he's not able to play d6 because of the pin. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why I think c6 is a fine choice here. And then go back to the question I posed originally: what's white's best move? And if white plays c4, black gets d5 in. But here in this position, maybe it's a little different because now there's a rook check, but that shouldn't cause black any problems he needs to worry about. Okay, where's white going to go? Probably drop back to b3. I don't think the check is useful. Black will just interpose a piece, and black's got a couple of doubled isolated pawns here, but but he should be okay. Oops, wrong piece. And then pinning it so you can't castle, but black just shuts everything in, closes the door, and look, black's got his pieces out and he's ready to castle, and white's still sitting there a little behind on the queen side. So this is just a sample line. I'm not saying it's a forced line, but black should definitely be playing c6 here. So he played bishop c5, and I'm not going to necessarily criticize that because black's getting closer to castling, which he needs to do. And now white puts a rook on the file, so black's got to be careful about that e file opening up. And a6 is just entirely wrong. It's where black starts going astray here. As I explained, the correct move was c6 because it prepares the thrust d5. So he's really just putting the bishop on a better square. What's he trying to do? Push his d pawn, I suppose. I don't know. But c6 just isn't, or a6 just isn't right. And that does in turn put the bishop on a better square. Now black's not primed to play d5. So here, what's black's best move? Well, white actually has a threat here, and black didn't see it. So what do you think black's move should be? Pause the video if you have to. Think about what white's threatening. If it was white's move, what would you do? But it isn't white's move, so try to solve it anyway. Okay, you've resumed the video. White's threat, if it was his move, is to play bishop takes f7 check, okay? And the nice thing about that is that you're going to get the piece right back because of a fork. If black doesn't take the bishop, he's lost his castling privilege and white's stolen a pawn. And if he takes, then white has queen h5 check, and black gets out of check, and we pick up the piece. So if you're black in this position and you've just misplayed it as I've explained, well, you're not dead yet, but you've got to sit down and try and find a strategy here. So what are the candidate moves to avoid this? Well, let's see. Do we want to play g6? That just looks horrible, but it takes away queen h5 check. Okay, so let's discard g6 right now. It just doesn't seem to help black. So that leaves knight f6. That'll take away queen h5, right? But I don't know. What's this move might embarrass black quite a bit. Where the threat is you're going to take a knight with discover check, and there's a lot of themes where black plays d5 here, but you can't do it because you're just dropping this knight with check. So looks like knight f6 is out. So what are we going to do here? And this just shows how difficult black made the game for himself by playing a6. So it seems to me you're running out of options here. You could play queen e7 or queen f6. Those would do the job. But what about d6? At least that's one thing that a6 accomplished for us. It got the bishop off that diagonal. This might work. d6 might be the move. I just really hate to play queen f6 if I don't have to. White can go threaten a mate with queen f3, but black can defend that. That shouldn't be a problem. The more enterprising continuation, and I don't think white has enough development to justify it, would be e5, and this threatens to take on d6 with check. So what does black do? He's got to be careful. Several candidate moves. He could play knight e7. He might be able to survive with bishop e6, and he could even play d5 here. d5 would work, and follow up with knight e7 and bishop e6 and queen d7 to decide which side of the board he wants to castle on. Okay, so black did have some resources here. Unfortunately, he just gets himself a lost game in a hurry. Let's just revert it and go to where we were. Okay, black played knight e7, and let's see, how much time did he take on the move? Well, he took, his clock went down 41 seconds plus his increments, so he spent over a minute and a half on it, but white just has the tactic I explained, and Black had plenty of time to see the tactic, but didn't see it coming. But now I'm sure he's groaning to himself, "Oh no, how did I miss that?" Well, you didn't take enough time. You didn't study your tactics. That's all I can say. And from this point out, the game is essentially over. White's a clear pawn ahead, attacking another pawn. Black's king can't castle. His queen side is not developed. And the only thing saving black right now is the white queen side isn't developed. So let's just see how it continues. D6, which just gives up a second pawn, and it's gruesome. Okay, and really, now it's a shame Black is relegated to playing moves like this just to attempt to castle himself, because this just gives White time to get all of his development in place. And White proceeds logically, seizes the center, opens up a line for his bishop, and Black's getting ready to castle by hand, and White can afford to give him to do stuff like this. He's just can do anything practically. Develop a piece, that's fine. And look, White's almost got his development all set, and Black doesn't have anything to show. He's 2 pawns down. He's got a queen rook and queen bishop that haven't moved yet. So if Black's going to do any kind of attacking of his own, he's going to have to get the rest of his army in to help. There's a start. And meanwhile, White completes his development. And ouch. Black's just trapped his own queen just about. He's going to have to retreat his one advanced piece, right? Okay, so now White can just win this at will. E5, open up the game, why not? Check. And poor Black is just in trouble. He's down 2 pawns with no compensation. White has a 4-on-3 pawn majority on one side of the board and 3-on-2 on the other, and he's attacking. And that's what he does. He starts attacking. And so Black, like that square, he goes back to occupy it, but if anything, that just gives White more potential exchanges to make. And now there's some tactics maybe on the fact that the G7 pawn is pinned. What can White come up with here? Well, C4, just batten down the hatch. Hold the D5 pawn. Doesn't really matter what Black does. You know, you almost think that White's just a move or two away from a decisive gain of material, especially now with the Black king side shattered. If White wins one more pawn, it's curtains. Ouch. That looks like it does it, because after King H8, whoops, I think everybody saw that. You should have seen that. It's not only mate, there's a little queen bonus on the side if you don't have mate. But I admire Black for playing the bird's defense. I think it's a great opening, and if you defend the Ruy Lopez and playing in this league and watching this video, go out and study for it. It's not bad. It's not bad at all, and then you don't have to worry about the Ruy Lopez exchange variation. You don't have to worry about all the other lines White can try. You get to sit there and play your line. So Black didn't lose because of his opening. He lost because of how he handled the rest of his opening. So anyway, it was a pleasure making this video and chatting with all of you, telling you my thoughts. I thank you so much for your time that you took to watch this, and I look forward to making another video real soon. And we'll see you again. Take care.